Okay, I'm going to bring Robert Randazzo in here. So, shush. Okay. That works. That's good. All right.
User was moved to your channel.
So, I'd like to formally introduce our special guest of honor, the CEO, president, founder, awesome god of everything to do with PMDG, Captain Robert Randazzo.
Well, good afternoon.
Thanks for this, Robert. That's very, very awesome. And we're very lucky to get you. And thank you as well for the support for this event, giving us the aircraft to give away and stuff like that. It's been phenomenal.
Oh, well, good. When you guys approached me with it, it seemed like a good cause. And, as I mentioned in my forum thread, we get a lot of requests, but this one certainly stood out, and it seemed like something we could get behind. So I'm glad we could help.
Cool. Now, we're happy to take questions from the live stream chat channel. I'm tempted to say you can ask a question if you bid, if you put a donation in for like $2 or something. I'm tempted to. I'm just thinking about it. By the way, they're asking if you can mute the aircraft for the time being. Paul, if you could, would you mind? Yeah. Thank you. So that's an option. You might want to go and donate. I'll probably give priority to the people that donate to ask Robert a question. The first question that I have to ask, which is a question which has been on everybody's mind since we started this live stream, the Victoria's Secret model, the Dwarf, and the Goat. Tell me about that.
Well, it was one of those unfortunate incidents, and as I mentioned earlier, we can talk about anything, but I refuse to talk about how that photo came to be. So we're just going to let that one go. You can talk to my lawyer, though, if you want.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Wonderful. That's very, very cool. All right, seriously, though, the obvious question everybody wants to know, when are we getting a 777?
This year.
Excellent answer. I like that.
We have made a 15-year history of not divulging release dates, and a lot of people think we do it just to keep people cranked up, and the reality is that we don't plan release dates in a traditional sense, just because these are very, very complex simulations. There's an awful lot that goes into them, and we can be running headlong at a finish line and hit a wall, and we can't predict when those things will happen. We can't predict why they'll happen. And we just kind of like to work and work and work. And there comes a point where we just start to realize, okay, we're finished and it's time to give this to the users. And, when we hit that point, that's when it releases. So, now that being said, there's a phase of development where anyone who brings up the topic of release dates gets shunned, and then there's a phase where we all kind of start to talk about them just kind of in a natural flow of things, and that conversation is taking place, and it has been taking place for a while. So the 777 is very, very well advanced. We're really happy with the state it's in, and I think that if we weren't trying so hard to live up to the standard we set with the NG, we would probably have released it already. So, but it's in pretty good shape.
That's really good to know. So I got to ask, let's go back in history a little bit. What on earth inspires a guy to form a company doing stuff like this? I mean, the 737 NGX is so incredibly detailed. Took you years to bring that to the market. Why? I mean, it would be so much easier just to make not shoddy products, but less detailed products and get them out quicker and potentially make more money because of the issue of having more products out there.
Yeah, that was really sort of two questions, and so I'll sort of parse it here. What prompted all of us to get involved in this, I think, was sort of an accident of timing. I have been a flight sim enthusiast and really sort of a latter-day flight sim geek since I don't know, I was in the 5th grade, I think, when I discovered the Flight Simulator 1.0 on the Apple, and it's kind of been downhill for me ever since. But in the early 90s, I was involved in a project with people at my former employer who we were opening up the new Denver International Airport, and somebody decided that I should be trusted with an early GPS device, and I was walking around the terminal marking down parking spots for airplanes and recording that data so that it could be sent on to the people that needed it. And I just got this whimsical idea that I could figure out where all the spires were on the Denver International Airport and then go home and create scenery for it. And I knew nothing about any of that stuff. And I wound up tinkering and created what I thought for the time was a pretty decent scenery, and one thing led to another, and I found myself sort of, to use a term that Enrico Sciarrotti coined, I was sort of bit twiddling with Flight Sim, and discovered pretty quickly there were a whole other people like me that were just out there trying to make something a little bit better than what we were given. And I've had the very, very good fortune that this is not just me. There's
Hey,
there's
wake
a
up.
huge number of us on the PMDG team. And we have some people who are extremely skilled in some areas, and they just really enjoy the process of taking this base platform and making it more capable than what the designers really ever developed or envisioned for it. And I would like to say that yes, the NG is sort of the the penultimate simulator. I don't know. That to me just sounds kind of arrogant. I mean, I love hearing the praise and I love hearing the enthusiasm, but we look at it and we are very happy with it, but there's areas we wish could be better that are limited by the platform, and there's all kinds of other stuff. And so that's sort of what drives us is what else can we do with this so that when the rest of the community is sitting at home using it, they get to experience what it's really like to fly airplanes of this caliber. And so that's really what drives us. We just kind of like that technological challenge of making it as real as it can possibly be so that people can really see what it's like and learn something in the process, because that's the fun of it. And I'm very fortunate. I've gotten to fly airliners and that sort of thing, and a lot of people just don't get that opportunity. So if we can bring that to you and do it in a real nice fashion so that when we release something, you can go get this product from us and it's going to be top notch. You don't have to worry about whether basic functionality is valid or whether it works or whether it's got a lot of functionality to keep you interested in it for a long time. That really is that's the goal for us. We would yes, we might be able to make more money if we just sort of kicked out a bunch of knockoff stuff really quickly, but it just I don't know, the folks that I work with on the PMDG team, we always tell ourselves, okay, we're not going to dive that deeply into the next one, and somehow we always seem to. So it's a lot of fun. That's why we do it.
That was very cool. Thank you. Just for the people on the live stream to know, my chat in the live stream is kind of very, very delayed for some reason. I think we just had a ton of people joining. So, I'm hearing myself. So, forgive me if I'm not getting to your questions. I'm not seeing the questions right now, so that's fine. Something seems to be wrong with chat. So the next question, Robert, you said that you guys are working on a DC-6. Is that correct?
We are, yes.
How close is that?
This year.
Okay, good, fair enough.
Yeah, the DC-6 actually wound up in a traffic collision. We had originally expected the DC-6 would release between the NG and the 777. And we had, there's different phases of development that each product goes through, and there's points where the 3D modeling guys are the most important guys on the project, and then we go through phases where the guys writing code are the most important guys on the project. And when we were in the middle of the phase where we had one developer who was critical to the DC-6 project, and we had his schedule all mapped out for the year. The poor fellow just. The universe decided to just kind of throw, one haymaker after another at him for about 4 months straight. And so he just was not able to make the deliverable timelines that we needed. And what wound up happening was that we found ourselves in a situation where the folks who should have followed him on the DC-6 were already engaged on the 777 by the time he finished. And so we had to make a choice. Do we hold the 777 up in order to finish the DC-6, or do we sort of slide the DC-6 behind the 777 on the production schedule? And that ultimately was what we decided to do. And the DC-6 actually experience prompted us to start looking at, okay, maybe we need to bring some additional people onto the team so that we can prevent this type of collision happening. So the DC-6 is back in production now. We had to stop for a little while because we didn't have the resources to cover both. But it's back in production now, and it will release, I think, not too long after 777, and you'll notice I'm using non-empirical terms when I describe the relationship between the two. So, but it's back in production and it's moving forward again. So that's good.
That is cool. Now, I got a next question. Obviously, we got a couple of guys flying here from Buffalo Virtual Airways who are supporting this event. They are curious because the DC-6 is a step back in time, somewhat from the 777. Are there plans for other classic aircraft like the DC-4 and things like that?
There are, and we. Anyone who's hung around in our forum for a long time knows that I have a thing for old ladies and big jug, for lack of a better description. And and if anyone's my wife, I said that. I swear I will deny it.
Okay.
But to me, there are really two airplanes in the world that kind of define my love for aviation, and one of them is the DC-3, and the other is the 747-400. So. I would very strongly expect that after the DC-6, you will see our DC-6 development team dive into either a DC-4 or a DC-3, and we haven't really decided which of those two to do yet. So, but there will be more. We've got access to both of those airplanes, so that we can produce a really, really high quality version of it. And it's just a little bit too early for us to make that decision just yet.
That's cool. It's good to know that you are thinking along that line. So that's pretty awesome. Okay, let me go through some of the questions that are filling my chat window right now. Give me a second to scroll up.
Sure.
Okay, we auctioned the 777 that you kindly let us have. So one of the first ones to get handed out will be to the guy that won it. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He won it for $301. So the rest of the channel is asking, what is the actual price of the 777 going to be? And hopefully not $301.
Well, no, it won't be $300. What we decided we would do is we would give it to you guys to allow people to bid on, and we wanted to make sure that he would get it for half the price. So it'll be $602 when it releases.
Perfect.
In terms of pricing, we don't have a firm price set just yet. I do have a pretty good idea where it's going to be. We tend to be a little bit more expensive, and that is something that we're very aware of. With the NG, some folks will recall that we were very vocal about the fact that when we set pricing on the NG, we were concerned about two things. One, we were concerned about the fact that the sort of the global economy had imploded, and a lot of our customers were really feeling the pinch. But also that we had taken, I think at that point, 3.5 years longer to produce that product than we thought we should have. So we kept the price down in order to, as kind of a thank you for sticking with us for 3.5 years of no major product releases. So the 777 is going to be more expensive than the NG, and so that nobody goes crazy. It's not going to be, jaw dropping. You're not going to wake up on release morning and see a, $150 price tag or something crazy like that. But it will be more expensive. But that being said, it will be a price that we think is fair for the quality that's packed into the product. It will be a price that's fair when it's compared to other products that are on the marketplace that you could also spend your money on. So, we like to think that we give you a very, very fair product in terms of product quality, in terms of the amount of the completeness of the product, and also the aftermarket support. And so we price those products to match about what we think is fair, and we go from there. So it will. I've got an idea where it is, but I want to make sure we get close to completion before I really put that thumbtack down.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm getting a lot of people joining the channel here. So just to fill in where we're at and what's going on, this whole live stream is to raise money for a PC pilot writer called Tony Radmilovich. You can check out the Facebook page and the broadcast's title for more information. And please, please, please donate to the cause. We're trying to raise money to help him pay his bills, keep his house, and so on. And along those lines, we are supported by PMDG, and we're currently talking with Robert Randazzo, the all-round boss and everything to do with PMDG, and he's very kindly taking our questions, and I'm getting a ton of them in the chat. So the next one, a few people have asked this, the EFB in the 777, is it included in the aircraft? That's pretty much it. If it's not, is that going to be a later add-on? That kind of stuff.
We are looking at, first off, no, it's not going to. We are looking at a couple of different approaches for an EFB. One of my dreams for our entire product line, and that's the NG, the triple, and the 400, is to have an EFB that works cross-platform, that provides you with the type of information that you would get off of an EFB in the airplane. So we're not going to attach it specifically to a single product release. It's something that will be compatible with all three. And one of the challenges that we're facing right now is that for anyone who has used the actual EFB on a 777 or an NG or a 400, there is an awful lot of data contained in that EFB that comes from companies like Jeppesen, and the data on that, as we have talked to Boeing and we've talked to Jeppesen and we've talked to a couple of our partner airlines, it can cost you about $2,500 per EFB per year to keep the data active on those, and that's for a company with a fleet of 100 airplanes. So the challenge that we're wrestling with is how do we provide real world data on the EFB without having to ask you to subscribe to something that costs $200 a month. And the data providers that are out there, they are sort of fascinated with simming in the same way that a 3-year-old is fascinated with what he finds in the toilet. It's they know we're there, but they really don't want to get near it because there's such tremendous liability of litigation and things of that nature. So we are trying to develop the relationships that need to be developed so that we can create an EFB that can be used to do the things that an EFB does. The other alternative, and this has been done by a couple of folks, and we could certainly go this route, would be to create what's basically a PDF reader that displays stuff there. But a lot of the value of an EFB actually has nothing to do with showing approach plates. There's a whole host of other stuff that goes on there. So we're trying to find ways that we can bring that to you in a product that, whether you have the triple or the NG or the 400, it would work in any of them, and we'll get there. It's just a matter of we're a really small company, and
I understand.
We've got limited development resources, and so when we start talking about things, I think I think everybody in the team gets worried whenever Rob starts going off on a tangent of well, wouldn't it be cool if, because they usually means that's gonna someone's workload's about to go up and they're not gonna but they're still gonna have to make all their other timelines. So we'll
Fair
see.
enough. That's cool.
We'll get there with one eventually, I'm sure.
Okay, I'm going to try and group the questions together because there's a ton of them coming.
Cool.
So this is on flight simulator platforms. Have PMDG ever thought about doing a platform instead of just being hosted in FSX? And what's up with FS 2004 support?
FS 2004 support, we announced back in, and I might be wrong here, and I'm sure that someone will go to the forum screaming at me if I've got the wrong date here, but I believe it was early 2009. It was earlier, maybe like early 2008, that we made it pretty clear that the MD-11 was going to be our final product for the FS9 platform. And and there's a lot of people get very, very emotional when we talk about this, but the reality is we have 15 years worth of customer data. We have an awful lot of ways to build statistical information out of everything from activation histories to customer purchasing trends and things of that nature. And when we started looking at the data, and this is back in 2008, we started to see that as hardware was advancing, the customer base was moving by and large to FSX, and that was rapidly becoming the platform of choice. The two platforms are dissimilar enough, given what we do in terms of complexity, that developing a product on two platforms becomes very, very difficult, and it slows us down rather dramatically. And so the decision to cease supporting FS 2004 really came down to economics. And the reality was we felt, and we still do feel, that that we cannot sell products on the FS 2004 platform to justify the development expense and the missed opportunity cost of increased development rates with FSX. And, when you look at the fact that it took us, 5 years, something like that, to get the NG done, and the 777 will be a, I almost gave you information that helped you.
No, keep going. That's fine. Keep going.
No. But when the 777 comes out, it will be significantly shorter development time than the NG was, and when the 400 2.0 comes out, that will be even less than the 777 was. We are finally starting to hit our stride with development on the FSX platform, and it just financially, economically, it doesn't make sense for us to support FS 2004. So, and I know that there are folks that are disappointed with that, and when we get email from folks that are really passionate about it, I feel badly because I wish we could support them. It just economically doesn't make sense for us.
Cool.
On the platform issue, I am going to decline to discuss it, and there's an awful lot of. Actually, no. You know what? I will discuss a little bit of it.
Okay.
Developing a platform is an extremely expensive enterprise, and we've heard numbers bandied around about it would cost you $1 million to do it, would cost you $1 million to something like that. When we look at what it would cost to develop a platform, and then you start looking at everything from licensing data to distribution channels to everything like that, it would put company at risk, and it's a risk level that I don't think we are comfortable absorbing. But that being said, there are some things afoot in the community, and we are working with through a couple of different channels to make sure that the community has a place to go. And so I'm gonna take a little bit of a sidetrack here, so I might answer some questions that you've already got pending. But the worst thing that can happen to a company like PMDG is that we have to start developing on multiple platforms just to stay alive. Because as I just explained, that's very difficult for us. We are very, very small. But that being said, what we are looking to do is to find a way to make it acceptable for our customers to transition from one platform to another. And in the decision on what platform that should be hasn't been made yet. I can tell you that it will not be prepared. As much as we like the platform and the direction that development is going, that platform really is geared toward the commercial sector. And while they are allowing some users to get into that platform through other channels, it just won't, unless it's a retail channel, we just can't support it as wholeheartedly as we'd like. The customer base just won't be there. So we're also looking at X-Plane, and we do have a project that's in development for X-Plane. I can't say what it is just yet, but it's been in development for a little while, and it's an opportunity for us to sort of learn how to work with X-Plane. And we are going through that process, and we are using it as a way to figure out how do we take one of our existing projects from FSX and move it into X-Plane so that we can serve customers on both platforms. And then there are some others going on in the community that I really don't want to talk about, but I am more excited now about the future of simming than I've been really in the last 5 or 6 years. So I think 5 years from now, when we all look back, we're going to acknowledge that Microsoft deciding to leave the community in the lurch actually might have been one of the best things that happened. So I'm pretty excited about some things that are coming, and it well for PMDG's future, which obviously makes me happy because we've got a lot of mouths to feed. But I'm really excited because there's some things coming that are going to allow us to do some stuff that we've never been able to do before, and just kind of continue to run down that road of bringing you the most realistic simulation platforms we can bring you, so that guys that don't have the opportunity to fly airliners for a living can see what it's like and learn about it and really enjoy it. So I'm excited about it.
That's great. How much more time do we have for?
You know what? I am in the office, and right now with the 777 in the phase of development that it's in, I work basically from 10 in the morning till 2 a.m. So at some time at around 2 a.m., I'm going to cut you off. If
Okay.
we're still talking then, but until then,
All right.
the only thing we're doing right now is delaying the 777 as I sit here and talk to you rather than working on the triple. So.
All right, guys. So you heard it. 777 is going to be delayed because of this live stream. So I'm going to cut the questions down. Let me. One of the questions that came up was two questions. I kind of don't want to group these together. The first is in RAM usage. There's a growing problem with add-ons because of the gigabyte, the memory limits that we have in FSX. Obviously, you're aware of that. Obviously, the 777 is more complex than the 737 NGX. Any other insight into that? I don't know how else to ask that question, so I'm just kind of relaying what I'm reading.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and it is something we're very aware of. And we are, I was having this conversation with one of the guys on the team, and we were sort of talking about it, and I made a wisecrack at him about the fact that, this is just something that we're not worrying about at this phase in development yet. And he wrote back to me. He said, "Well, you might not worry about it, but I do." And he said, "We're down about 11% from where we were with the NG." So, some of the techniques that we're using are clearly working. We're getting a little bit better at what we do. What worries is that we're not the only ones. We are using a finite resource, and we're not the only ones using that resource. So we've got traffic developers and scenery developers, and everybody is really starting to hit stride with the FSX platform, and techniques of how to make things look really good and how to make things very comprehensive. So. And I think all of us as developers are very cognizant of the fact that if we get sloppy, we hurt everybody. So I think that it's probably safe to say that we are a lot more cognizant of memory usage just because we're working with code. It's not just graphics. But I don't. That means that we're any more or less careful than anybody else out there. Because it's a shared fate if things start to come unhinged. What worries me as a developer is the advent of some hardware that simply won't run FSX because FSX has this this memory limitation, being a 32-bit app and that sort of thing. But like I said earlier, there are some things that I'm not comfortable talking about right now that are afoot, that we are participating in, that we're aware of, that like I said, 5 years from now, we're all going to look back at this and we're going to laugh and say that Microsoft deciding to leave the market was probably one of the best things that happened. And and this whole memory usage thing will be a thing of the past, and I think that it's not too much longer before that happens.
Excellent. Okay, just a couple more on the 777, then we'll get off that. I think we're kind of beating it up a little bit. The 737 NGX, you had the ability to change the components on the dash, change all the dials that you're looking at based on the configuration for the livery that you're running. Mm-hmm. Presumably that's going to be in the 777 as well?
It will be, yes, and it will be a little bit different though, and this might surprise people. I think people are under the impression that because I'm sort of like the face of PMDG that I know everything that goes into the products, and I really don't. I am very, very knowledgeable of the areas that I am responsible for. There's an awful lot of delegation that goes on, and we've got some guys on the team who just do a magnificent job of, this is your piece, go. So folks will, I'll meet folks at in Paderborn or in Munich or something like that, and they'll ask me questions, and I give them sort of a blank stare because I don't know the answer. When it comes to the configurations of the airplanes, it's something that I don't really get involved in, so I hope I'm not giving out non-factual information. But the process by which users can customize the cockpit to match a particular airline, that process still exists in the 777. It will be a little bit different, I think, because there's certain hardware configurations that are only available in, like the LR airplane, and there's certain hardware that's only available in the ER airplane, and that sort of thing. So there might be some catch points in there that, but I think for the most part, if you can find an equipment list for the airplane for a particular N number, you'll be able to configure that and save it and be able to use it just like you can with the NG.
Excellent. Okay, question I've seen come up twice is on the MD-11. Any chance of a VC upgrade?
I don't think so.
No.
The and it's kind of a shame because there's one of my old time. I'm old, so one of my favorite airplanes is the DC-10, and there's a couple of airplanes that I would love for us to do. One of them being the DC-10, another being the 707. And another being the 727. I just don't see us ever getting to those because I'm looking at how long it takes us to do stuff, and I'm doing the math on the average life expectancy of American men, and sort of running out of time. But when it comes to the MD-11, the MD-11 was a great project, and it's one that we're glad that we did. But the reality is, we learned an awful lot about what not to do with a project. And I'm getting a lot of feedback all of a sudden.
Yeah, Paul might want to mute your mic a second, Paul. Sorry, dude.
Now, which Paul is that? I want to block his
Paul
user account.
Paul White from... no, don't do that. Paul White from Buffalo.
Where was I? Oh, with the MD-11, we learned an awful lot about what not to do in development, and it was a very painful project. It was a very, very difficult project, and as much as I would like to go back and revisit that one, like we've done with the NG, like we're doing with the 7.4, it just financially wouldn't make sense for us to do. So I don't see us doing that.
Okay. Quick one-line yes/no answers, because this gets a whole bunch of questions answered all at once. Other aircraft, and are you considering them, thinking about them? So we'll just go straight down the list. Airbus.
I can't. I'm not in a position to comment.
Okay. DC-10.
No.
707.
Well, it's funny because I just mentioned all these, didn't I? If somebody could find me the Fountain of Youth, then for sure, yes, we'll do those things. But
I think the thing to bear in mind, as Robert said earlier in this interview, is it takes them a long time to develop an aircraft, and they do tend to dedicate the entire team to one product. People are already asking, why are you developing two aircraft at once? I think Robert already said that they kind of were, but they're not now. They're focusing on one thing first.
Actually, let me correct you, because I was talking about those two particular projects. We actually have 3 airplanes in development at the same time, and what we ran into was a particular developer who was required on 2 projects at the same time, and so that caused us to have to slide one. Right now, we have the DC-6 is in development, as I've mentioned. We've got a team working on that. The 777 obviously is in development, and I've got a team working on that. We're working. I think we're. You see here just a quick scan. Yeah, more than half the team's working today on Saturday. And then we've also got the 747 2.0, which is in development, and that's probably, if I were just going to make a wild guess here, I'd say it's about half finished now. So we actually have 3 in development. The issue for us really comes down to what is the market palatability of a product, and one of the things that we've really focused on is, what interests our customers, and what we think interests all of you is what you see and interact with at your local airport. So unless the world miraculously starts flying 707s everywhere, you guys are going to want to see, the Airbus, you're going to want to see the NG, you're going to want to see a triple, that sort of stuff. So those are really the things we're focused on.
Okay, probably the last question, because these guys could go on all day long, and I know we've still got people trying to fly. Okay, cool, that's cool. All right, 747 version 2.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Who's the little kid in the background?
That would be my 2-year-old son, who just popped by to say hi.
Oh, awesome! That's cool. My daughter, who's now 6, has been known to show up on conference calls and things like that. So anyway, I'm all about little kids. So anyway, so sorry, you asked me a question about the 7.4.
Yeah, what's new?
Well, it's it will be a complete simulation of the airplane. I think you guys will be surprised at how much stuff we got wrong on the 1.0 as we have moved forward in it'll be 9 years this May since we started development on that airplane, on the 400 1.0. And the things that we have learned and the resources that we have developed and the relationships that we have built with Boeing and with their flight test people and the licensing people and the technical people have given us access to an amount of information that we just didn't have before. And so the and the other thing too is before, when we started the 1.0, I had been a passenger on a lot of 400s but had never flown one, and I've that's changed, so we've got an awful lot of more close to home expertise now. But the it is going to be just a comprehensive rebuild. The airplane will have a lot greater capability. It will fly a lot more nicely. It will more closely replicate what the airplane's really like. And I feel bad saying that, because the 400X really is a magnificent simulation of the airplane. But there's, I look at it, there's little things that just don't quite line up the way they should. I'll give you just a sort of a random example. With the airplane, if you're shooting an engine out approach, there is a visual marker that you use when setting thrust, and you disconnect the auto throttle, and then you just set your thrust marker at this one particular point on the display, and that gives you the thrust that you need through the entire slowdown and configuration of the airplane all the way to landing. And if you have paid attention to what you're doing, once you set the throttles there, you really don't touch them. And on our airplane, if you use that visual marker, the airplane will slow rather dramatically. So just little things like that, that people who fly the airplane for a living recognize aren't quite right. We'll get to clean those things up. But most importantly, the technology that we developed to serve as the base platform for the NG, which is now being used to support the 777, that technology bed is going to be used to support the 400. So it's going to be a much nicer looking product. It's going to be a much better performing product, and it will just be a better all-around simulation of the airplane. So,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm excited about it, because, like I said, to me that's the two most important airplanes in my love of aviation, and that's one of them. So.
Absolutely. Somebody's asking a couple of times. 8i 747 8i. Any?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got the whole data package on that airplane, and we are. What I see doing, and this is going to sound like I'm obfuscating, and I don't intend it to. It's just because we really haven't gotten this far out. The plan is to do that airplane, and the reason why the plan is to do that airplane is simply because so much of that airplane's software-driven systems come off the 777 that we already have them. We might as well reuse them and give them to you. So what I envision the 8i becoming is we will release the 400 2.0, and then the 8i will be an expansion to that. Much like the 6700 has been an expansion to the NGX, much like the 300 series 777 will be an expansion to the 777 base package. That you'll be able to get the 8i and the 8F as an expansion package, and it will update the flight deck and the software and that runs the airplane and the engines and all that kind of stuff. So much more comprehensive than what we did before. Was really just visual model because people were interested in it. What we're talking about this time is there'll be an expansion pack that is the full airplane.
Okay, cool. Back on the 777, taxi cameras, are they going to be included?
We've a guy who's working on that, and we actually derailed his work by giving him something else. So I don't even know where he is with it. It's something that's on our agenda that we'd like to do. Those cameras are on the 300, so we've got a little bit of time, and it really hasn't gotten that much of my attention because I'm very involved in the 200 at this point. So, but it's something that we do want to do, and if we can make it work, we'll make it work, and we'll go from there.
Excellent. So many questions. I'm just scrolling up, so bear with me. If any of the other guys here on TeamSpeak have any questions while I scroll up through the list, then feel free to jump in.
Well, so Peter, while you're looking at questions, I'm flattered that there's so much interest in having me come and just kind of flap my jaws for a while.
There really are. I mean, I got to point out, we had 50 viewers on the channel when you joined. Well, now it's 120 and it's rotating. So we've probably gone through a couple of thousand since you joined.
Well, and I'm flattered by it. I am sort of a perennially private person. I tend not to talk about me a whole lot in our forum and that sort of thing. So, but if we could just, while you're filtering through questions, just kind of remind everybody that the reason we're doing this is to help Tony. Tony is someone that I have never met, but he is a member of our community, and the guy has through no fault of his own. He hurt himself. He needed surgery to correct it, and I think most of us put a lot of faith in our doctors and in the medical advice we get. And he did what he was told, and some things went wrong, and he finds himself in a very difficult position. And so the whole reason why why all of us are focused on this weekend is to try to get some money together to help him pay the immediate bills related to his medical care and to keep him from losing his home, because it's important. It's every now and then you find yourself in a position in life where things are going relatively well for you, and there's somebody else that just really, in spite of their best effort and haven't done everything right all along, they find themselves in a tough spot. And if we can help them out as a community, then we've done something at the end of the day. And it's a tough thing to lose your home. My parents went through it when I was in college. It's not a whole lot of fun, and it really does upset your life. And Tony right now should be focused on trying to get well, because he's got a tough road ahead of him in terms of being able to walk pain-free. Just every little bit helps. And I know it sounds like, well, geez, just give some money, and that's not really it. I mean, if everybody could just like skip one cup of coffee or tea at your favorite local broker today, and give the $2.50 or give the $5 to this cause, we could go a huge distance to trying to help mitigate some of what has really been impacting Tony's quality of life. And at the end of the day, we will all be able to say that in spite of all the little fractions that take place in our little community, and in spite of all the competitiveness and everything else, guys like PC Pilot, like PMDG, AvSim, Flight One, and and on and on, in spite of the fact that in some level we're all competitors, when it matters, we were able to help someone, and we did. So if all of you guys can chip in just a tiny bit, that will help, and it's certainly appreciated by me. I know it will be appreciated by Tony. We're sitting here talking, and I know everyone wants to hear me talk about what we've got coming, and I love that. I appreciate that. We don't get that many opportunities to kind of sit and have these sorts of chats, but let's not forget the reason why we're here is to help Tony. So while you guys are listening to me rattle on about nothing in particular and try to avoid talking about release dates, if you can just plug $2.50, $5, whatever you got, just plug it in there and see if you can help out. We'd appreciate it.
Very much appreciate that. Thank you very much. And he's absolutely right and very eloquently said. So with that in mind, we're actually going to go silent now until all of you donate. So we'll wait here. No.
I've tried that trick on my 6-year-old before. It never seems to work.
I wish it did. We should do that. We should just talk about the weather until somebody donates a large chunk of cash. I'm not going to, though. I got a couple more questions. A few people have mentioned 787. I should have put that in the list of aircraft. Are you considering?
Right now we're not. And I'm sure that there's a couple of my competitors who just sat bolt upright and said, "Oh my God, I know what we're doing next." We haven't gotten we have not gotten the data package on that airplane yet. These things cost money, and it's just something we haven't. We just haven't gotten there. There's a couple of other things we want to do first, so we're gonna do those. I'm sure we'll get there someday, but there's just a couple of other things we want to do right now.
Well, presumably a 787 is just a very big 777, and you turn it on and it catches fire. I mean, it's not that hard.
Oh, no, come on. Those are our friends you're talking about.
Yeah.
The 787, from a pilot standpoint, I would love to do that, because it's, I'm sort of a gadgety, techie kind of pilot. I love to fiddle with, FMCs and, create waypoints and that sort of stuff. And, so the 787 is just like a marvel of technology, but from a developer standpoint, just the thought of that airplane makes me break out in a really prickly rash, because it is so software driven. My fear is that there would that there's a whole lot of stuff in there that we would have to invent just to support the data-driven side of that airplane. So, but I will get there someday, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned earlier on being a very private, so I guess nothing left for. Oh, that's okay. So
Again, not about the Victoria's Secret supermodels, the dwarf and the goat. That's all I
no,
ask.
no. I did get an interesting question. Some people know your background, other people don't. Do you want to fill us in a little bit on your background? I mean, you're known as Captain Randazzo. So, what is your background prior to PMDG, education, all that kind of stuff?
Well, I guess, yeah. So my aviation background, I don't even really know what we're interested in. So I'll just kind of throw some things out, and if there's something you
Sure.
want to hear about, then just tell me.
Sure.
I got the aviation bug. I think I was 5 years old. We went to the airport to pick up a relative, and I pointed to a 747 and said I wanted to be one of those when I grew up. So I think that almost everyone in this community can associate with that. I was the kid that, if you gave me a present at Christmas that wasn't related to airplanes, it was sort of like, well, what is this? I grew up building airplane models and that sort of thing. And when I was in grade school, discovered Flight Simulator. From there, it just kind of continued on. I got a job cleaning bugs off of airplanes at a flight school up in Bedford, Massachusetts when I was I think I was 14, and it was actually sort of funny because I guess the insurance regulations were such you weren't allowed to be on the flight line unless you were 18. So on the application where it asked, are you over 18, I did not check the box yes or no because I didn't want to lie. And no one ever noticed it. And it was funny because I worked for that company for 4 years, and on my 18th birthday, all of my coworkers, they knew it was my birthday, and they brought a cake in, and everybody sang happy birthday. And my boss said, well, how old are you now? And I said 18, and he just about fell over because I'd been working there for so long, and I got fired. So
oh no,
That's so funny.
It was, but so I went and worked for somebody else, and it was fun. But when my whole ambition in life had been to go to the Naval Academy, and then I was going to graduate in the top of my class and do the Marine Air option. I was going to fly the F-18 off of aircraft carriers for 2 tours, get out, fly for United Airlines, retire at 60, get into politics, run for office, be president of the United States, get out of that when I was about 72, and then I had no plan from then on. I just happened to be in this little weird period in history where the U.S. military was shrinking. They were cutting budgets. They were dropping aircraft carriers out of the fleet and putting them in the scrapyard. And they just didn't need people like they used to. So I was not smart enough to go to the Naval Academy. My high school roommate and I were both trying to get into the Naval Academy, and although I like to tell him often, he's like a brother to me. I like to tell him often that I'm better looking than he is. He was much smarter than me, so the Naval Academy chose over me. So my life all of a sudden took a turn, and I didn't know what I was going to do next. So I went out to the local airport, got a job at United Airlines cleaning toilets from 10 at night to 2 in the morning. In Allen, Pennsylvania. I was attending Lehigh University at the time, and I thought that because I was a bright kid and I had I really was motivated, I thought they'd just make me management. So they gave me a toilet brush and a set of rubber gloves that went all the way up to my shoulder, and told me where there were there's 4 lavatories on a 727, and you will clean them for 4 hours, and when you're done, you go home. So I did that, and then after doing that for about 6 months, they let me drive the truck that empties the labs, and since I thought that was a promotion, they decided that I was management material. I had a fun career bouncing around in different places, working for United, and was fortunate enough to get identified by some managers who were influential, who were very difficult to work for, but who were very powerful within the company, and they beat on me because I guess they saw some potential if somebody could just figure out how to make me show up on time and do what I was supposed to do. And one thing led to another, and I was doing a tremendous amount of travel, and was involved in a couple of big projects. That the opening the Denver International Airport was one. There were a couple of others, and I was never home. It was a lot. It was a great way to make a living for a guy in his early 20s, but it really was kind of tough for a while. And I was sitting on an airplane with a fellow one day, and I was watching the first officer do the walk around on the 727 out at National Airport. It was pouring rain, and there was a guy next to me who turns out he was one of the pilot managers for United, and he made an observation that poor guy was getting wet, and I told him I'd give anything to be able to be out there getting wet with him. And we got to talking, and one thing led to another, and I wound up taking flying lessons a couple of days later, and it just worked out. I was able to talk my way into a flying position at our regional affiliate and at Dulles. I had a lot of friends help me do that. I had a lot of friends flying 777s and 75s at United, and they put a lot of effort and energy into helping me get where I wanted to go. And it was a lot of work. And the interview at Atlantic Coast, I had very, very little flight time. It's amazing that they hired me, but they stuck me in the simulator after the interview, and I was able to survive it. So they offered me the job, and as I went through training, I kept having people apologize to me because there was no way some guy with my amount of flight time was going to survive. But it all worked out, and I flew a nasty little 19-seat turboprop called the Jetstream 32. And probably one of the best experiences that I have ever had. I was flying with captains who had 6, 7, 8, 9,000 hours in that particular airplane. They had been stuck in that airplane for years because there was no growth in the industry. And so I was really kind of learning at the elbow of some masters. And there's some guys that I'm still friends with, and some of them are simmers too, which is kind of funny. There's one fellow, Ryan Kelly, another Larry DeBold, some captains who just really knew what they were doing, and they weren't afraid to teach you, and they weren't afraid to help you be a much better pilot than you were. And they challenged, and they taught you the hard way. And we were slogging around in the high teens in icing conditions for 8 months of the year, and it was tough learning, but it was a ton of fun. And then I was offered the opportunity to upgrade to captain on the Jetstream 41, which is one of my favorite airplanes, and flew that airplane and absolutely loved it. From there, was offered an opportunity to join the chief pilots team at our regional affiliate, and the whole plan originally was I was to go back to the parent carrier because I was at United Express on a leave of absence, but Osama and his boys kind of messed up my transition plan, and things have been tough for United ever since, so it didn't work out. But and then my airline went and tried this very strange little experiment where they tried to turn themselves into a company called Independence Air, and that I knew that was not going to work. So when about the time that started to unfold, I started kind of shifting my focus more and more toward PMDG, and it has done far better than I ever would have imagined. And along the way, I've developed a fascination with warbirds, and I've flown. I've flown DC-3s, 4s, a bunch of different single-engine fighters, not fighters, a bunch of single-engine warbirds, and it's a lot of fun. So I had the opportunity to get typed in the 400, and that's been a great experience. I've flirted with the idea of going back into the industry a couple of times, but like I've said, I've got a 6-year-old at home. I've got a wife whom I adore, and most of my friends that are in the industry, their marriages are difficult. Their relationship with their kids are difficult, and so I'm very fortunate. I've got PMDG. I can work on this. The joke for self-employed people like all of us at PMDG is that we will gladly work 120 hours a week in order to make sure we never have to work 40 hours a week. So, and that's kind of where we are. So,
Cool.
It's been a good career, and lest anyone come away with the impression that I did everything right and everything was good, that was not the case. I had some people help me along the way who were absolutely tremendous in ensuring that I got to do the things that I wanted to do. And so, I've had a lot of people come to me and ask for help with different things in terms of job placement and things like that. And I'm always bend over backwards, because the fellow who was instrumental in helping me get my first aviation job, flying for Atlantic Coast Airlines. When I asked him one day, how can I ever pay you back for everything you've done for me? He said, you can't, but what you do is you reach over and you pull other people up over the wall. So I have tried very hard to do that, and I continue to try very hard to do that. So just doing it in different ways.
Very cool. Okay, actually running up on a fairly hard stop here, and a bunch of people just turned up, and it's about to get very noisy for me around here. And I know Paul is actually trying to land, so let's start wrapping this up. Anybody on TeamSpeak here have any last questions for Robert?
I have one.
Okay. Oh, good luck with this one.
Hello, Robert. It's Joe Lavery.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm very well. Interesting to hear your opinions on all these things, and very eloquently put, I would say. Regarding the 737, which is a superb product, I bought it on the day. Two of us sat here and wait until we could get on the net to buy it, and so it's a superb product. But you may or may not know that I have a full-size 737 cockpit as well.
Yes.
And one of the things that was sort of intimated when you announced it was that there may be a possibility that it would be usable for people like me who build their own cockpits, but none of that seems to have come to fruition.
Not yet. And it is it's something that is on our task list for all of our products. What I would like is that as soon as we reasonably can, I would like for a guy like you to be able to plug it in and be able to do whatever needs to be done so that it can drive your home cockpit. There are a number of challenges that we face, because developing for the customer who just wants to use it on screen and developing for the customer who wants to run a whole home-based setup, those are two relatively different processes.
I appreciate that.
From our perspective. And so we had to make some very drastic changes with PMDG starting in late 2007, early 2008. And so the NG was really the result of kind of reinventing ourselves. The 777 is our effort to kind of harmonize the technology that we developed to make sure that all works correctly. And we do have a master plan that will see us updating both the NG, the triple, and the 400, or I shouldn't say both because there's three of them, but and the 400 2.0 to be able to allow that. And Joe, if it gives you any hope at all that that I'm serious about this, one of my ambitions is that we are going to have a full 400 flight deck set up in the office here at some point, so that we can have some fun with it here. But so if we can do that with the 400, we will definitely be able to push that back into the NG. So it will happen. I just don't know exactly when.
That's a fair answer. The reason I say, of course, is because the software that runs the flight decks that people use at the moment, myself, I've got Project Magenta, but there are others, as I'm sure you're aware of. But they tend to be very expensive, which wouldn't be an issue in itself, but most of them are nothing like as comprehensive as you've done with the 737 NG. So that's the reason, really, that most people want it to be as good as the 737 NG already is.
Yeah, and I've said this before, so I'm not talking completely out of whack here, but I have a fundamental problem with me charging you. You own the NG, you own that software, and from my perspective, you're a home user. You're not using it to make money. You're using it for your own entertainment. I just don't see coming back to you and saying, hey, we want you to pay $300, $500, $600, whatever it is, to be able to run this with your home setup. So if if this comes out the way I envision it is going to come out, when we finally do get this technology piece nailed down, and we do have a very clear view of exactly what changes we
User
need to
entered
make.
your channel.
When we make changes and we drive it back into an SP3 or a 4, say with the NG, you've already owned a license. So when this update comes out, it's something you'll be able to do. We're not going to stand there with our hand out and tap our foot and ask for a whole bunch of money. To us, it's just kind of part of the value equation of our product line. And obviously, if you were going to try to run a flight school or something with it, that's a little bit different. There needs to be a commercial license there. But if you're using it at home, Joe, when we're done with it, you'll get to use it. So it'll just be part of that package.
Speaking from experience, I've been in this sort of fraternity for about 2 years regarding the cockpit building side of things, and speaking to people in the forums that I belong to, most of them would be happy to pay extra for it because obviously they've seen the quality of it and the likelihood. I mean, it's been quite a big topic of conversation in the forums, and honestly, they would be quite happy to pay for it because what we get charged now for these things as an ongoing thing is a ridiculous amount of money for something that you sell for a fraction of the price.
Yeah, and so right now they're all screaming at the ceiling, wishing you'd stop talking and convincing me to charge them money for it. But
I'm only thinking that it might be a spur. What I'm trying to say is, if you think, well, we're not going to make anything out of it, it's going to be put on the back burner. But I can assure you, there are people out there that would pay good money for it.
Well, you're good. And actually, that one is more a matter of us. For us right now, the holdup really is just access to the technology, and we need to have something in house that we can work with, so we can kind of get over those hurdles, because it's just something we have no experience with. So we will figure it out, and it will be driven back into to all of our 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 NG and later products. So it's just a matter of me having developer time to dedicate to it. But we're coming up on, as I sort of look at this,
User in your channel was kicked from the server.
beginning of every year, I go through and start looking at, our development for the next 3 years. So I'm always looking 36 months out. I can see some places where it will likely happen. So it's just a matter of actually getting.
All right. So absolute last question, and then we got to wrap this up.
Thanks very much, by the way.
Yeah.
Let Robert go about his day. I know Jane is itching to get out of here, and I've got a ton of people just turned up, as I said. Sorry, guys. Before I ask the last question, though, once again, Robert is here from PMDG, who are very kindly supporting our event and helping us raise money for a writer at PC Pilot, who is Tony Radmilovich, who desperately needs help with his medical bills, cost of living, and saving his home. That's why we're all here. Please click on that donate link. I will post it in the chat in a second. In fact, I'll do it now. Hang on. That link that I just put in, please go there and donate, even if it's only $1, $2, it doesn't matter. The more we get, the better. Very, very, extremely grateful to Robert for spending so much time here talking. That was phenomenal. Thank you. Last question I've got is from Sly433 in the channel, who's asked me repeatedly to ask you, how does he work for PMDG? We don't actually really have a hiring practice at this point. We tend to, everyone on the team has just kind of floated in at the right time when we've needed a particular set of skills. And at the moment we're not hiring, but I would say if you wanted to try to set yourself up to be hireable at any of the developers, including PMDG, start twiddling with FS, start twiddling with X-Plane, learn how things are done, develop a particular skill, and become pretty good at it. Because that's really how it works. We've got the last person that we hired sort of off the street, so to speak, was Jason Brown. And Jason got hired because he came to an AvSim event in 2007, and he brought samples of his work with him. And he showed to us and wanted to know what we thought of them. And interestingly enough, he didn't ask us for a job.
His wife did, but he didn't. And so we just kind of kept in touch with him because I liked what I saw. And we reached out to him about 8 months later because we just, something popped up. We needed an extra set of hands. And so we brought him on board, and he's been with us ever since. And he's really just a great addition to the team. And, it's kind of how it works. It's such a small community. It's hard to... I wish I could tell you, hey, do this, this, and this, and we would definitely hire you. It just, a lot of it is, it happens just kind of at random times, in right place, right time, and preparedness, and you never know what'll happen.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Robert. It's been phenomenal having you here. We very much appreciate it. I got to say as well, Paul, that was an amazing landing. Thanks for putting up with all that noise in your ears while you're trying to fly.
And my apologies. This is the first time that a non-PMDG product has been on for God knows how long.
It's pretty cool. It really is. Everybody's been flying PMDG. Everyone's been flying it. I actually took a break and flew a Sabre and an F-15 to give the viewers a break from PMDG. No offense.
That's okay. It's funny because everybody always thinks like, oh, he doesn't want to hear about the others. I know Corey from I'm drawing a total blank.
User was moved to your channel.
Yeah. Anyway, I know, I've had an opportunity to meet a lot of other developers, and you know what? I love seeing other guys succeed too, because if the community is healthy, if there's a lot of products coming out, there's a lot of variety for people. It keeps everybody interested in the hobby, and if it's good for the hobby, it's good for us. So,
excellent.
It was an opportunity for me to see somebody else's work, so it's pretty cool.
It's excellent. Once again, Robert, I appreciate it. And guys watching on the channel, please say thank you by donating to Tony Radmilovich's fund. That's why we're all here. That's why Robert chose to spend so much time answering so many questions. And I've never heard Robert answer that many questions. It was great. Thank you, thank you, thank you to everybody. I have to get out of here for a few hours. I've been doing this since 7 a.m. this morning, which is too many hours ago. Jane has to get out of here for a couple of hours as well. Jess is about to take over the flight. That's it. Thank you very, very much, guys.
All right, and when it comes to 777 release time, you all just remember it would have been out an hour and 20 minutes earlier. But
I love how he's timing. It's like PC Tyler's going to get a bill.
You will, Bill.
No, it's just
wow.
because I've had the thing sitting here in pause because I'm working on the hydraulic system today, and so I've had this thing sitting in pause, and it's counting how long it's been in pause. So it's on the screen. So.
That was amazing. An hour and 20 minutes. That was phenomenal. Thank you so much, Robert.
All right, guys. Have a nice weekend. Thank you for doing the flight, and everybody, please just chip in a couple of bucks for Tony. That's why we're doing this, and if we can help him out, we've done something good this weekend.
Exactly. Please click on that donate link, which is in this channel stream's title, and I also put it in the chat a few times. Okay, now we have to get back to business and rearrange pilots and flights and everything else. If that's okay, Paul, you good to start, and Jess, are you good to start?
Yeah, I'm ready to drop off.